Hey, what's up YouTube? In this video, I'll be showing you how to make the Odyssey, which is of course the airship from the game Mario Odyssey. Here are all of the materials that we will need to make the build. In terms of placing the Odyssey, I would highly recommend placing it at the very least. This is the minimum height 15 rows off of the ground. So place a starter block mid-air like this, and this way 15 rows off the ground, we will have a little bit of clearance with the propellers at the base of the build. It's still nice and easy to see as you're walking around, you're not going to miss it because it's too high, and it's not too hard to get up onto, but by all means, do build it higher. I probably wouldn't build it lower. Anyway, begin the build by placing a white concrete 15 rows or higher off of the ground. We then want to extend it to the right by placing 3 red concrete. 1, 2, 3. Place a white concrete on the end. Now we want to extend that white concrete inwards, to the right, inwards, to the right, and then back by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We then want to extend that block in, and then back, and then in, and then back, and then across the back of the build by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We then want to extend that block inwards, and then out, inwards, out, towards the front of the build by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we want to extend that block inwards, forwards, and then inwards. So this might seem a little bit tricky, but as you look at it, we have effectively made a circle. So we want to take said circle and we actually want to increase the size of every single block that we have placed here up by 2. So that includes the white concrete and the red concrete. The only caveat to this is that we want to take the center row of red concrete and we want to place a glass in the second position rather than red concrete. And now that we've done that, we want to add another layer on top of this. So we're going to place white concrete on top of the red concrete and the glass. Then we are going to add a layer of red concrete on top of the white concrete. So what we then want to do is add 7 layers of red on top of this entire shape. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we want to increase every single block up by this amount. It isn't actually quite as easy as this, but it's much easier building with a blank canvas. I would also recommend filling in the very top of this with red concrete as well. Now, with that complete, we actually want to shape this a little bit. So come to the front of the build and we'll start on the left side over here. So all the way over on this left side, starting from the top, we want to place a row of 6 red concrete extending down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, in front of the top 4 blocks, we want to add another row. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, next to this, to the right, we want to place a row of red concrete that is 5 rows. So the effect is this, really simple. And we want to do this on the opposite side also. So on this far side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then a row of 4 from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a row of 5 on the left. So we get this nice shape here. And we actually want to do the same thing on the back as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then actually it's a row of 6, isn't it? My bad. So we've already messed up. So 6, 4, 5. There we go. As long as it matches the front, and that's what you should always do if in doubt, as long as it matches the front, it's all good. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 next to it. So perfect. It's not quite as simple as this though, so we now want to grab red terracotta. And on each one of the 4 sides of the hat, and you can literally just come to the top left-hand corner on each side, move inwards diagonally by 1, destroy the block, and the one underneath. Leave a gap, do the same. Leave a gap, do the same. Leave a gap, do the same. We want to fill all of these in using red terracotta, and we do this on the right as well. Inwards diagonally, destroy all of these. I'm actually going to make all of these indentations on every single side, and then I'll fill them in. And once we have added the red terracotta, what we can then do is grab the red banners, and we can place some banners at the top of the hat. So this literally just covers up, or partially covers up, the red terracotta, and it's just to give us a particular texture, and it's very similar to the actual Odyssey itself. So now that we have done that, we are going to extend the door outwards a little bit. So the white concrete next to the red and glass door, we want to extend the white concrete outwards, so every single block right. We then want to place yellow concrete on top of these white concretes, and then extend the yellow concretes outwards like this. So we're adding a nice little bit of depth. That is absolutely wonderful. And now that we have done that, what we now want to do is add a layer of red concrete that sits underneath the central shape of the Odyssey. So the Odyssey is, of course, at its core, a circle. It's a little bit more complicated, but it's a lot easier for us if we think of it as a circle. As now that we've kind of like made the bulk of the center, and it is a bit more complicated, we are going to be adding windows and stuff, but we're going to do that a little bit later because I would just like to make the entire platform as we have it. So now that we've added the red concrete, what we will now do is add another layer of red concrete around the outside of this base. So the red concrete wants to connect together in the corners like this. So you'll know when you've eventually done it, it'll look like this. But what's a little bit trickier is now to add another layer of red concrete, and this can be a little bit confusing if you're not paying attention. Trust me, I have messed this up many times. We want to add another layer that literally just sits all the way along the outside, and that is absolutely perfect, and that is pretty much going to be our platform space. So what we're now going to do is add a layer of white concrete around the red, starting from kind of like that front left flat side, and it's going to come all the way across the back, up the left, across the back, and down the left, or up the right rather, across the back and then down the left. And we kind of want to leave this little area alone here. So this is actually now going to be turned into a platform. So we're going to join the red together in this corner to form a square. We're then going to extend this. Which block shall we extend? So we're going to extend this white concrete here to the left one, forwards one, and then place 3 red concrete left of this, 1, 2, 3, and then white concrete next to it, and then extend backwards, 1, 2, 3, and then we just want to kind of like extend in a couple of blocks like this, or we might even shape it a bit. So in front of this red concrete we will place white concrete like this, and then I'll tell you what, we'll actually shape this a little bit better. So we'll kind of make it a little bit more curved, kind of like this, And the purpose of this area is actually to have a globe, so we might as well make it whilst we are here because we don't really have to come back to this area other than to make the under part of it. So in this corner here we are going to place a cyan concrete, behind it a light blue, left of it a cyan, and then in front of that block a light blue. Then on top of that light blue concrete we want to place a lime concrete, right of it a green, behind it a lime, and then left of it a light blue. This is the effect that we have. It's a little globe. The next thing that we are going to do is build up the platform a little bit more. So we just need to grab the white concrete for this and come to the right middle side of your platform. We are looking to find the middle block, so it's quite easy. If you find the middle block of the hat, 2 blocks to the left, 2 blocks to the right, that's the middle. Well, we want to place a white concrete here, the middle of the edge of the platform. And this row of white concrete wants to extend all the way around the outside and stop in the equivalent position on the opposite side. We then want to leave a gap of 3 on top of this raised area, so 1, 2, 3, and then we want to add another layer of white concrete, so this is going to come and stop on the equivalent position on this side, to which we will then build up birch fence around the edge of the platform, so it's going to connect down to the lower part of the platform, so up and down like this, it will just connect all together rather nicely, like so. We also want to add a row of fence just in front of the entrance like this, just a row of 3 or perhaps even 5 to span the distance between the door frame. That looks really good. Now there is another feature on the build, so on the front right side of the Odyssey there is a light. So the light is made using red concrete, sea lanterns, yellow carpet, yellow banners, glass, and that's actually it. So, on the very right corner of the Odyssey, we want to place a red concrete and 1 to the left. Then, sea lanterns in front of those red concretes and we drop down. Glass in front of these sea lanterns. We then want to place on top of these sea lanterns yellow carpet and drape yellow banners off of these sea lanterns, like this. And that is pretty much the light. You can also use something if you wanted something a bit warmer. Shroom light looks really good, of course classic glowstone. I like the sea lanterns, but do feel free to differentiate. Whilst we are marking specific things out on the Odyssey, there is a little flagpole. There's actually 2 of them, but the first one is positioned here. Right here in this corner, so hopefully you can see where it is, and basically it's 2 rows high, it's just 2 birch fence on top of each other, and this is probably a good time to make the necessary banners that we need to make. There's not too many, so grab a loom, throw it down, open it up, place a red banner in there. The first thing that we want to make is the letter M. So to make the letter M, we add this effect, the white inverted chevron, add some red dye in there instead of the white and place the red chief indented pattern, then add white dye in there and add a vertical row of white on the left and right sides, which gives us an M. And this is basically just hung off of this little flagpole here, and it's either to the front of it or to the right, it doesn't really matter. So not only did I destroy the loom, but I also realised that we were lacking both dye and a white banner. It's just easier to start off with a white banner, so basically this is how it works, right? So we crack open the loom, we place a white banner in here, we add red dye in, and we add the red bordure pattern. Grab that, put that back in the loom, add some white dye, and then we add a horizontal row of white dye right across the bottom. And there we go. That's just that. Whoa! That is the banner, which hangs just below the glass of the door, and that is, well, there you go. That is the insignia that is on the door. And if we just destroy this loom, that's looking really good. So the next thing that we are going to add is a giant flagpole. So the flagpole is made using end rods, a bit of polished black stone wool, and we'll need some red concrete for this. Or red terracotta also works. Red wool also does as well. So anyway, we want to add this flagpole pretty much on top of this central birch fence here on the right side of the build. So the end rods are going to span up as high and probably at the very least 1 or 2 blocks higher than the actual hat itself, maybe just 1 block. Then stick a polished blackstone wall on top. And I'm thinking that we will actually use wool for this. It's actually not, it's a minor thing, but we're basically making a flag. So behind the upper end rod, we want to add a couple of red walls, and then we want to extend them back, out, and then back like this. And maybe flare one of the blocks, upper blocks or the bottom blocks, backwards like this. And it's just to give us the appearance of a flag. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So on the back of the build, we have a couple of engines. So the engines are essentially made, well, I don't know if I'd call them engines, but they're like some sort of propellers of some sort. And they're made using polished blackstone wool, bells, and yellow concrete. So we find the middle white concrete block on the back of the build, and we drop down to, well, actually, we drop down to the middle of the white concrete. And we add a blackstone wall extending out of this, extend it 1 row further, 1 row up, place 2 yellow concrete on top, and then a bell on top of that. Then we want to leave a gap on the left and right of this blackstone wall, so we leave a gap of 1, drop down 1, place 2 blackstone wall extending outwards, so gap of 1, down 1, 2 blocks outwards, and then 1 blackstone wall up, 1 yellow concrete up, and then bells on top. And that's kind of just like as close as we can get to the actual like propulsion system. It looks pretty good. It's not too far away from it. So I'm realizing that at this point in time as well, we have to add another layer of red concrete directly underneath the white concrete. So this isn't tricky. Exactly, it's just that when it comes to the front left hand side of the Odyssey, so everywhere else where the white concrete kind of like connects together, it's alright, like we can just add a layer of red concrete directly underneath, right? But underneath this part it's a little bit weird. So when we kind of like hit the point where like the Odyssey starts to get a little bit shapely, just follow the shape of the red concrete instead of the shape of the white concrete, and then that will be pretty good. So we'll actually just leave that like that. That's looking great. I think it's a good idea to add the remaining windows and little bits of detail to this part of the build that we have now before we forget them later, and by we I mean me. But then by extension you, but it is technically my fault. So the first thing is really minor. We want to place a bell hanging off of the front of the center of the platform. Basically just line up with the door where we have the banner and the glass, and you can't go too far wrong. Well, on the left and right sides of the Odyssey, we want to have windows. So the windows are positioned in the center of the actual wall here. They're 3 rows long, or 3 rows wide, and they're 1 row above where the red concrete begins. So leave a gap of 1, and then we want to place a 3 by 3 square of light blue glass just built into the wall, and then smooth quartz slab along the bottom. So do this on both sides, the left and right. So the 3 middle blocks here, we want to dig out a 3 by 3 square above them, place glass in here, and then smooth quartz slab along the bottom of the window. So next we have to place a window on the back of the build. So we do unfortunately have to cover up some of these wonderful banners, and that will actually help us place this. So place a yellow concrete on the lower half of the 2 inward red banners, and then connect them together. Then in the wall below this, we want to dig out a 3 by 3 square once again, and then extend a yellow concrete left and right just down diagonally from the top of this. We then want to fill the center of this in with glass, and then lastly add the layer of quartz slabs just like this. So this is a little bit higher than the other windows, but that is absolutely perfect. So we now want to come underneath the platform. So we are going to first of all add another layer of red concrete directly below the platform, and the red concrete wants to sit inside and below the previous shape. So the only thing with this once again is that we don't want to follow this shape that we have on the front left corner. It wants to be even all the way around. So we are going to have to, like, when we get to this corner, we're going to have to make it look like the other ones. So if we leave like 2 blocks or 3 blocks from this corner, and then we kind of like extend each row inwards, and then like this, and just take a little look. Like if you're unsure of how it's made, just take a little look, make sure that you have done the exact same thing as all of the other corners, and then you can't really go too far wrong. Well, what we then want to do now that we have done this is add another layer of red concrete along the inside of this shape. So we are making the circle a little bit thicker, and it's going to go all the way along the inside of this. So we'll have 2 rows of this in total, right? And once again, just to make sure that we've done the right shape, because everything hinges on the fact that we are. We then, now that we have accomplished this, want to fill the center of this area in using light grey concrete, so we can literally just in the same plane fill the entire thing in using light grey. And now that we've done that, we want to, along the outside of the light grey, add yellow concrete. So this is not going to connect together in the corners, it's just going to look like a nice golden ring shape. I thought this was Mario, not Sonic. So the next thing that we're going to do now that we have achieved this is find the center of the circle. So it shouldn't be too hard to do, you should be able to kind of like eyeball it, but the middle block will basically, this is so weird, these controls, the middle block will basically have 3 blocks extending from every single side, from back, left, right, and that's how you know you found it. Well, we place a birch fence in the middle, 1 underneath it, and then we want to place, as a matter of fact, the thing is we want to keep placing birch fence, but there are significant birch fences. So we have 2 birch fences, right? And then we are going to want to place 8 more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So here's the deal. Now that we have the row of birch fence, we leave 2 rows away from the top, and then in front of the 3rd birch fence and behind it we place a birch fence gate. We then leave a gap of 1 coming down, and then we place birch fence gate on the left and right side, so opposite. We then leave another row extending down, and then we place more, leave a row going down, and then we place more birch fence gate. And then last but not least, we leave another gap, and then we place more birch fence gate, but it's kind of like a corkscrew, in which it's kind of like opposite as we change each particular level of it. And we now want to add 2 additional propellers, and these are going to be, well, the first one is extending from the front left-hand corner diagonal yellow concrete here. So we want to, this time, have a row of 6 birch fence extending down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can see it's kind of just like it's in this position. We then want to have the same thing on the opposite corner, but on the back. So the back right-hand corner extending inwards diagonally. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And with these, we want to leave a gap of 3 from the top. So 1, 2, or it might be better to start from the bottom, to be honest. So on the bottom, we want to place birch fence on the front and back of the fences, or birch fence gate on the front and back of the birch fences. And then we leave a gap of 1 coming up, and then we place the opposite. And you can see that these are opposite to the center one as well. So we get quite a lot of ground coverage or air coverage from this, and it just looks really, really good. And with it being 15 rows off the ground, as I kind of mentioned, like, we're within touching distance of the actual birch fence. So if you did want to have just like a set of stairs or something leading up from the ground up to the Odyssey, I mean, there you go, it's absolutely right there. At this point in the build, ladies and gentlemen, there is only one thing left to make, which is going to be the, for lack of a better term, sail. So come all the way up to the top center of the Odyssey and add a hopper in the middle. We then, on top of this, want to add a honey block and extend it left, right, front and back, like so. We then want to add an additional layer of honey on top of this. And then we kind of want to add a layer of tinted glass on top of this. And we are going to add a couple of tinted glass blocks like on the front, and on the back we'll kind of like add a honey and a tinted glass. So it doesn't all want to be the same basically. It kind of wants to look as though we have kind of a little bit of a mix between the two, but essentially it's kind of like circular in nature. On the center block, we want to add a few dark oak fence, okay? What we then want to do, in front of the second dark oak fence, we want to place a white concrete. On top of it, add another one. In front of it, add another one. And then it's probably easier if we take a look from the side here. So from the side, right, we're going to go up 2, 1, 2, left 1. Up by 3, 1, 2, 3, and then left 1. And then we're going to go up by 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then left 1. Up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, left 1. Up by 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then right 1. And then up 2, 1, 2, right 1, up 2, and then right 1, up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1, up 1. So, that last block should line up, or at the very least come very close to it, to the dark oak fence that we placed earlier. So if we extend this all the way up, we will have something which should look like, hang on a second, it should look like this. That is absolutely perfect. So what we now want to do, and this is really time consuming, but it's honestly really easy from this position. So what we now want to do is extend the right side of the sail to the right by 3 rows. So 1, 2, 3, right? And we want to extend every single white concrete that we have to the right by 3 rows. Now, with this complete, we now want to continue extending this shape. So the way that we're going to do it is we will add a white concrete backwards and to the right of this lower white concrete here. So this white concrete, we're also going to extend it back a row, but this is where it's really easy. We essentially just want to follow the shape of the previous part of the sail using the white concrete. And this is going to, again, is just going to follow the shape of the actual previous part of the sail as we get all the way up to the top, right? And, well, that's kind of it. Unless you want to extend the top backwards as well, that'll probably look a little bit better. And then if we take a look at it, there we go. Perfect. And then we just have to add a few rows to this. So I'm thinking we will add, at the very least, 3 more rows, 1, 2, 3, like this, okay? So we're going to extend this to the right by 3 rows. I'm trying a little experiment. In the original version of this, I only extended it to the right by 2 rows, but I'm thinking if it looks a little bit thicker in this part in particular, I think it will improve the look of the actual sail itself. And now that we have extended that whole thing to the right, what we now want to do is add another layer of white concrete. So this is going to be out from this. So we'll add another layer of white concrete outside to the right. We'll extend this first block back at the very least 1 block. I'm thinking maybe 2, we'll add 2. And then we want to once again follow the shape of the previous part of the sail. And this will give us, well, just the next part of the sail. So the sail, of course, the middle is going to be more forward than the rest of the sail, and then the sides kind of like trail behind. So whatever we do to the bottom, we'll kind of do to the top as well. So we'll flare that backwards a couple of rows just like this. And what we will then do is extend this row to the right, probably just by one. So yeah, just by one will do, and then we will add the final part, which is going to be basically just a copy of this side onto the next side. So we've added that little bit of extra sail, it's looking good. We want to now add our final part, so this is actually going to be, again, inside and outside of the previous layer of sail, and we're just following the shape along, and then we'll see how this looks, and then we will apply the exact same effect. So we will have something which should look exactly like this, which is perfect. However, in completing that does mean that we have to come over onto this opposite side and do the exact same thing. So as you guys might remember, we started off by adding 3 layers of white, so 1, 2, 3, like this. And now that we have added those, we now have to add the next layer of the sail in. So we are going to come to the bottom of this again. We'll add a white concrete outwards, and then we'll extend it 1 row back, and then we will start adding the next part of the sail. So once again, this kind of just follows the shape of the previous part, just like this. And then this particular part we are going to add 3 more layers to, so 1, 2, 3. And now that we've done that, we are going to add another layer of white concrete. So this is, once again, it's going to sit along the outside. And this time we are going to shape it a little bit better. So we are going to add outside at the bottom here, just sitting along the outside. It's going to extend backwards a couple of rows. And then we are once again going to follow the previous shape. And this particular layer we only add 1 additional layer to. And then, last but not least, we are going to add a final layer of white concrete, and this just purely sits inside of the previous shape, or rather inside, but you're outside of the previous layer. But I'm sure by now you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And that will give us this absolutely massive sail, which looks really cool. So the only thing that you may choose to do with this is you might want to shape it a little bit. So, you know, do this at your very own warning. You may also not like this. So the base of the sail is ever so slightly more in than the top of the sail. So at the base here, you might want to choose to like knock out. So we'll start on the right side, knock out the bottom row of the sail, like on this bottom part, right? And then on this next layer here, we'll leave like this first bit alone, and then we'll just knock out everything to the right of it, like this, right? And then on this next layer, we'll just knock out this little right part, if that makes sense. So as you can see, it just shapes it ever so slightly. It's a minor change, but it does, I think, make a big difference. And I'm going to do the same thing on this opposite side. So I'll knock out the entire bottom part of this, because as you can see, it's kind of like built up in layers, as you can see, like this particular sections of it. And then we'll do the same thing on this next part. So we'll leave this big chunk, and then we'll knock out this this chunk to the left, and then we'll take out this part like this. And we could have made this a little bit more drastic if we wanted to, but I think that that's absolutely perfect. We can even take out this little part here. And again, it's just such a minor change, but I think it really does make a huge difference. And there should also theoretically be, but I'm not actually stuck on this whatsoever. There should be ropes attached to the sail that attach like the top of the ship to the, or the sails to the ship, I should say, is a much smarter and more concise and more accurate way of saying it. There are like ropes that attach the sail to the ship, not only the actual mast as well. So that's something that you may want to add. And in doing that, you kind of have like completed the sail, but I'm choosing also to add a giant M to the center part of the sail too. So if you start on the, so the sail obviously has a center, right? You can see it's the biggest part of it. So you come all the way up to the top left hand corner, right? And drop down 1, 2, 3, and then inwards 1. Destroy this block, down 1, right 1, and then downwards diagonal to the right, upright diagonal, right, up, like this. We then want to drop this right side down, 1, 2, 3, and the left side, 1, 2, 3. We then want to fill this in with red, and then we kind of just get like, it's such a small thing, but, and it's not necessarily that accurate, but I just think it makes a big difference. Look at that, that is absolutely awesome. That is the build. What an absolute statement this thing makes. I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial. Please do remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.